Video games are the most intense way to experience horror. Anybody's able to sit back and watch other people make stupid decisions in life or death situations while enjoying the comfort of their couch and feasting on bucket loads of popcorn. To play a horror video game, you have to become the person who makes those stupid decisions, while all of your friends laugh at you as if they wouldn't be doing the same thing. While a movie will continue regardless of how scared you are, a video game won't progress unless you can find the courage to press forward. The beauty of this though is the fact that you never have to play these games if you don't want to, and I'm pretty sure most of us fall under that category when you consider how many people resort to watching others play them on YouTube. You know what you're getting into when you buy a game like Resident Evil or Outlast, but what about those situations where you're faced with fear in a game that wasn't meant to be scary? Sometimes these situations can feel even worse since there was no way to be prepared for them. Now there are plenty of examples of this that I'm sure most of you are aware of, such as the piano from Mario 64, Lavender Town from Pokemon Red and Blue, or literally anything from Majora's Mask. However, I'm going to try and talk about some lesser known examples. Now a lot of these are from personal experiences I had playing these games as a kid, so you may not find them as unsettling as I do, but I'll do my best to explain why these made me feel the way they did. So without further ado, let's talk about 10 moments of terror in non-horror games. In no particular order. So I'm starting off with this one because I'm pretty sure that of all the entries on this list, this is the one you're most likely familiar with. I still felt that I should include it though because I have very clear memories of how haunted I was by this freak. For those of you who don't know, there was a little side mode included in Tomb Raider 2 for PS1 that allowed you to explore Lara Croft's mansion. Since I was a very young kid when I played this game, this was all I played because I couldn't figure out how to get past the first area in the main story, no matter how hard I tried. While you're exploring the mansion, you're constantly followed by Lara's butler, who will not leave you alone no matter what you do. Wherever you go to try and hide, he will always be there, and you'll know when he's coming when you hear the ice moving around in the drinks he's carrying. Now most people who experience this nightmare know that there actually is one way you can stop his endless pursuit, and that is by locking him in the freezer. However, even this is somewhat difficult to do because of the game's outdated tank controls, so for me it was rarely worth the blood, sweat, and tears required to pull it off. Oh, but when you did, there was nothing better than seeing his stupid face clip through the door as he realizes that he'll be stuck forever trying to escape his new frozen cell. Now this is a game that I played to death growing up. It did the best job at capturing the beauty and charm of SpongeBob in a video game, allowing me to really feel like I was playing through my own personal episodes. Unfortunately, it also perfectly captured the sheer terror of rock bottom. I specifically remember that I would actively try and avoid this level, trying to get enough golden spatulas in other levels to allow me to skip this one. But the damage was already done, and I'd already experienced the horrors that rock bottom held. As soon as you enter this level, you're greeted with the most chilling music in the game. It immediately made me dread going any further into the level. I'll have it playing in the background of this part of the video, but if you want to hear it more clearly, the link for it is in the description. Even without the music though, this level is just so out of place with the rest of the game, which makes sense if you consider that the episode was too. Bikini Bottom is generally just such a bright and happy place, unless you're Squidward of course, but Rock Bottom is completely shrouded in darkness, with creatures that look like distorted versions of what you're used to seeing in this world. It also doesn't help that this is the point in the game that started to introduce more difficult enemy types, making it even more desirable for me to avoid it at any cost. If you've played this level and are a survivor like me, then I have nothing but the utmost respect for you, and I want you to know that you're not alone in your suffering. Now this is something I'm almost certain you haven't seen in another video like this, because I'm probably the only one who found this part terrifying. So in Insomniac's Spider-Man, you spend about 95% of the time playing as Spider-Man, obviously. But occasionally the game has you play these sort of stealth sections as either Miles or Mary Jane. Most of these I found to be pretty boring, and they were definitely my least favorite aspect of the game. However, one of these sections actually stood out to me, and it was the one that had Miles trying to sneak past Rhino using distractions to his advantage. When you've grown so comfortable behind the protection of Peter's superpowers, it's a little stressful to be thrown into a scenario that not only takes those away, but also pits you against one of the most intimidating villains in the game. I couldn't help but be reminded of the fear I had while playing Outlast, as that game had no way of fighting back, leaving running and hiding to be your only options. It also doesn't help that Rhino is constantly threatening that when he finds you, he's going to kill you. This is a superhero game. I did not sign up for this. Just give me my powers back, please. If you've seen my review of the very first Crash Bandicoot game, you probably know that its atmosphere is what I believe to be its strongest aspect. There's hardly any dialogue in this game, and the soundtrack is mostly ambience. This is most likely why as a kid I was more engaged with Crash Warped, since that game had all kinds of crazy characters that talked to you frequently, along with much more melodic music. Crash 1 was just intimidating for me when I was younger. There was nothing to distract me from the challenging platforming, or the fact that I had to restart every time I played because I didn't understand the save system. While I found the entire game to be intimidating at the least, there was one level that always stuck out to me as something I never wanted to go through. That level is Generator Room. Notice I say that in present tense because I still clench my ass when I play this level. When you enter the level, you're immediately greeted with Cortex's expressionless face staring right at you as if he's saying to turn back immediately or you'll suffer the consequences. If you're idiotic enough to continue at that point, then you'll have to do just that. The level is a black abyss, leaving nothing to be seen except the platforms you jump on and some pillars in the background. The music is unsurprisingly eerie, and even the sound effects have an echo to them that just makes you feel like you're completely alone in this massive factory. To add to that feeling of loneliness, the animal enemies that you're usually faced with have been replaced by little lifeless machines. Unfortunately, the eerie atmosphere of this level was kind of lost in the Insane trilogy, but at least that allowed cowards like me to be able to get through it. Okay, so I know that Bloodborne is pretty much considered a horror game, but to me it's not for the reasons that I associate with other horror games. Bloodborne is a Souls game, but with a horror theme. The game is more focused on being a great challenge than on being scary. However, it has a unique currency known as insight. Insight can either be found scattered across the map or obtained from fighting bosses. As you gain more insight, you'll start to notice that the world has subtle changes depending on how much you have. Once you gain 40 insight, you'll be able to see creatures known as amygdala all over the environment. What makes this so creepy is the fact that they were always there watching you the entire time. You just couldn't see them until now. During one of my live streams of this game, I was randomly lifted into the air and tossed back down to the ground. At the time, I had no idea why this happened, and I thought it might have just been a bug or some sort of obscure secret. But once I was able to see the creatures, I realized that I had actually been picked up by one of the amygdala. Bloodborne is a game that's full of chilling secrets to discover, and there are certainly many of them that I haven't even discovered. The amygdala just happened to be the one that creeped me out the most, which is why it's so satisfying to destroy one of them in an optional boss fight. Eat shit, you freaky f***. Journey is a game that many people adore, and for good reason I'd say. It's an incredibly short experience, lasting only between 2 and 3 hours, but it was very enjoyable all the way through. I hadn't played this game until only a couple of months ago when I was at a friend's house and saw him start playing it. I had just finished playing The Last of Us on the hardest difficulty, so the moment I looked at Journey, all I could see was a cold glass of water waiting to rehydrate my malnourished corpse. So I decided to play this game alongside him, and we finished it that night because of how short it was. We were having a great time enjoying the refreshingly peaceful gameplay until we found out that there actually was some conflict to overcome. Once you get to level 5, I believe, the game introduced guardians, which I know aren't all that scary, but when I thought all I'd be doing in this game was admiring its beauty, I was taken by surprise when I realized I could actually be killed. The guardians hunted us through the whole level, and I had a lot of trouble avoiding them because of how fast they were. Luckily, I was saved by another player who distracted one of them while I bolted for the exit. Whoever you are, if you're out there listening, I just want to thank you for your selflessness, whether or not it was actually intentional. You are a hero. Everybody loves Minecraft. Everybody that matters, at least. There's no limit to what players can build and create using creative mode, but my favorite memories from this game mostly come from survival. Survival mode has enemies to fight, hunger to satiate, chores to complete, and taxes to pay. But what you'll most likely spend most of your time doing is mining, as well as crafting. But in a lot of cases, you'll need to mine to craft. Oh, I get it. If you dig around for a while, you'll eventually find yourself in a cave that's full of resources you need to make better equipment. Naturally, you'll want to explore the entire thing, so you'll keep moving forward until you realize you have absolutely no idea where you are. So here you are, lost in the infinite darkness of this Minecraft cave, worried that you'll run into a spider or a skeleton that wants to lodge an arrow into your skull. And if that's not enough, the music from time to time decides to throw in a... I thought about using the Nether as the Minecraft entry on this list, but I decided not to because while I'm equally terrified of that hellhole, I can usually avoid it since there are only a couple of things there that are needed to beat the game. So yeah, this game isn't always as friendly as it looks, but let's just be glad that Herobrine turned out to be a myth. Maybe. Licensed games are notoriously bad. Almost all of them end up being made to try and cash in on an already existing property. The developers usually try to release these games alongside the movie, which leads to them being embarrassingly unfinished. Sometimes though, when all the stars align, you get a game like King Kong. This game was a fantastic movie tie-in that lets you experience what it's like to survive as a human on this island where everything is bigger than you. But since I was just a scared little boy back in the PS2 era, I never made it very far in this game. I couldn't grasp the survival horror mechanics that were necessary to progress, so I did the smart thing and waited for my cousin to come over and beat it for me. I watched him play through this whole game in one sitting, and I wouldn't have had it any other way because this game is terrifying. Really, I could put any moment from this game, but the parts that I remember the most are the areas where a T-Rex is involved. Even though I was just watching, I still felt a fair amount of fear from this. It's a good thing I hadn't been playing because I would have quit here for sure, and I know this because later on I went into Chapter Select to try it for myself and was crying to my mother minutes later. From what I remember, you can't kill the T-Rex, so you just have to try and survive getting past him, which is not something I was used to since I mostly played platformers at the time. Luckily, you get to play as Kong later in the game, so you can get revenge on this bastard. So I played Psychonauts for the first time a couple of months ago, and while it had its flaws, I enjoyed the game quite a bit overall. The game has you diving into the minds of various characters around Whispering Rock Psychic Summer Camp. There is really no way to say that name without sounding stupid. Anyways, one of the levels takes place inside the mind of Mia Vodeo, where she teaches students levitation through her dance party dream. Just trust me, it makes more sense if you play the game. Since most of the level revolves around dancing, you'd assume she's just a vibrant personality who likes to dance and have fun. But if you dig a little deeper, you can find a secret room that reveals her tragic backstory. It turns out that Mia used to work in an orphanage that burned down, and she wasn't able to save the kids inside of it. It's just really disturbing because it's so easy to miss the secret room and never know about any of this. I didn't find it until I was going back through the game for collectibles, so it really took me by surprise. It makes complete sense that someone who's experienced something like this would try and bury it deep within their mind in hopes that nobody would find it. Man, this game can get dark. Undertale is a masterpiece. What looks like such a simple and, well, ugly game is actually so much more than that. As I progressed through the game, I was blown away by how much I was enjoying what I thought was going to be just a stupid little waste of time. There are plenty of reasons I feel so strongly about this game, but I'll save those for another time. The one thing I will say is that this game made me adore all of its characters. Undertale has a unique system where you can choose not to kill anybody, which is completely unheard of in an RPG. Of course, there are other games that you can finish without killing any enemies, but none of them made that decision and have so much impact on the story. You're not merely sparing these characters, but instead developing friendships with them, which is why it's so painful when you later decide to see what happens when you kill all of them. I'm not just talking about killing any enemy who stands in your way, I'm talking about actively seeking out every living thing in this world and destroying them. Most fans of this game don't even have the heart to play the game this way, so they instead resort to watching other people do it, and the scary thing is, the game even calls you out for this. But with all of this heartbreak, also comes terror. Once you've killed every creature within an area, the wonderful music from whatever area you're in just disappears, and leaves you with one of the most eerie songs I've ever heard. It can't even really be considered a song, it's just noise, because you don't deserve a song after what you've done. Some areas still have a song playing, but they're slowed down versions of what there was before, and they're no less creepy than the noise. I saved this entry for last because while the others were things that only showed up in parts of the games, this is something you have to deal with throughout the entire Genocide playthrough. If you haven't played Undertale, I can't recommend enough that you do, and if you have but haven't done the Genocide route, then I also have to recommend that you try it because it adds a whole new layer to the story that you'll never experience otherwise. And the Sans boss is awesome. Anyways, that's going to be it for this video. I know this was something different from what I usually do, but I think this was my absolute favorite video I've made, so let me know if you guys want to see more like this one. And if you don't let me know, then I'll also take your silence as a yes. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time with, well, I'm not sure what, but it damn sure won't be any more Dark Souls because f*** that game.